Good morning, good afternoon, good evening to everyone who has already joined us. And as more people are coming in, I want to welcome you all to our second installment of this year's Sichot and Achayot program, which is a program a Women's League program, which is generously funded by a grant which we have received from Keren Kayemet L'Israel, Masorti Olami, and Merkaz. The purpose of this program is to foster better communication between the women, the Jewish Masorti women of Israel, and the conservative women of the rest of the world. My name is Rabbi Margie Sella, and I am an educator for Women's League for Conservative Judaism. This is the 5th year in a row we are doing this program, and I think that this program has taken on added significance since even the last time that we met, when we first met over the summertime to plan the program, and we made our theme Osei Shalom. We once again were hoping and praying for peace and praying that the hostages would be brought home and that things would be different by the time the program came about. And when we had our first session on September 28th, that was just before the release of the 20 living hostages. We still are waiting for 11 more precious souls to be brought home to Israel for burial. So before we begin today's program, I would like to invite our international president, Julia Loeb, to give us some greetings.
Hi, everyone. It's so good to see all of you today. I'm happy to be here with you for this important program. I've just returned from Israel, still a little jet-lagged, where in addition to all the work that I was doing at the World Zionist Congress, I had a chance to talk to Israelis about peace, what it means, how hard it feels to hold on to at times, and how deeply everyone still longs for it. These conversations have stayed with me, and I'm especially grateful to be here now as we explore how to bring that same spirit of compassion and hope into our own lives. Thank you to Rabbi Sella for making this program possible, and to all of our speakers for sharing their wisdom with us. It's morning or afternoon for us here in North America, but as the day ends in Israel, it feels especially meaningful to be connected in thought and purpose across the time zones. Thank you.
Thank you, Julia. And before we continue on with the program, I also would like to bring you greetings on behalf of our executive director, Rabbi Ellen Mullins-Fields, who is unfortunately unable to join us today. So today's program is called Osei Shalom, Maker of Peace. Help us to make peace between ourselves and others. We will be hearing from 4 different women as part of today's program, followed by a Q&A session. During the presentations, the chat will be open only for you to enter any questions you have for our speakers. I will be monitoring those questions, and after each of them has had a chance to do their presentation, then we'll have the Q&A part of the program. And I will pick out the most pertinent questions that I see in the chat. I also want to let you know that today's program is being recorded and will be available for viewing on the WLCJ website, along with the recording of our first session from September 28th for those who might have missed it. And now, let us begin. Our first speaker today is Rabbi Amy Eilberg, who was the first woman to be ordained as a conservative rabbi at the Jewish Theological Seminary in 1985. This year, we celebrate the 40th anniversary of her ordination, as well as the hundreds of women who have since followed in her footsteps, myself included. Today, she serves as co-chair of the Racial Justice Subcommittee of the Conservative Movement's Social Justice Commission. She will be speaking to us about conflict mediation through a Jewish lens. Rabbi Eilberg?
Well, hi, I'm delighted to be with everyone. It's early morning here in California, but Boker Tov, Tzaraim Tovim, Erev Tov to everyone. It's great to be together. I was delighted to learn that you had chosen peace as the subject of today's session. Seems like an obvious choice in many ways, and yet because this subject has been really, really core to my life and my work for very directly for a couple of decades, I have a lot of experiences, perhaps you do too, of people saying, we can't really talk about peace anymore, that the word peace is poisoned. There's so much disappointment. There's so much discouragement. There's so much bitterness. The word peace is almost a bitter joke for Israelis, and I would say in some cases for some Palestinians as well. And I've always pushed back on that idea. I understand the pain of where that feeling comes from, um, but for God's sake, I mean, literally, for God's sake, we pray for peace many, many, many times a day liturgically. And more than that, and we must keep peace, whatever that may mean to us, at least not necessarily in the political sense, but in the spiritual and existential sense. Peace must be at the center of our lives, the center of our relational lives, and the center of our prayer lives. When I wrote my book, I had about peace, from enemy to friend, Jewish wisdom and the pursuit of peace. A couple people said, "Are you really going to use the peace word?" And I said, yes, I'm absolutely going to use the peace word. Um, I actually this requires there's the publisher of the book. I was reminded of this story recently, who was not Jewish, in looking for an image for the cover of the book, pulled off the internet this um, piece from, an image from the Sefer Torah. And of course, I looked immediately to see, which segment had they chosen. And it was the segment in Deuteronomy 30, where it says, Ki ha-mitzvah hazot asher anochi mitzaveh etchem hayom lo nifleti mimcha v'lo rchokahi. This Torah, this mitzvah that I give you, it's not too far from you. It's not beyond reach. It's not in the heavens that you should say, who among us can go up to the heavens and get it for us and impart it to us, that we may observe it. And it's not beyond the sea, and so on. Ki karov elecha hadavar ma'od. The thing is very close to you. Beficha ubilvavcha lasoto. The thing is very close to you. It is in your mouth and in your heart to do it. Now, that passage, so I thought it just blew my mind that it turns out the person who had chosen that image didn't speak Hebrew, so they had no idea what passage they had chosen. But for me, it was profoundly meaningful that passage about it is as close as your mouth and your heart to do it was associated with the teachings about peace that I wrote about in the book. So that passage has been especially dear to me ever since, and I think that's the message. That's the fundamental mental message that I want to convey today. Zoom out, if you must, from the details of the twists and turns of political issues and issues of peace and war and death and destruction. Discouragement, betrayal, all of that on the ground, zoom out. And the mitzvah of peacemaking is one that needs to be central to our lives as Jews and as human beings. And that's the idea that I want to encourage today, with the help of some beloved texts, which I'm going to go through quickly. But first, let me, excuse me, let me share them for you. So I assume you can see the handout. Yes, great. So the commandment, we might loosely call it a mitzvah. There's not an explicit commandment to make peace in the Torah, but there is in the Psalms. Very famous beloved passage, Mi ha'isha chafetz chaim ohev yamim l'ra'otov, who is the person who loves life? Guard your tongue from evil, your lips from speaking guile, sur me'ra v'asetov bakesh shalom v'rodfehu. Turn away from evil, do good, seek peace, and pursue it. So the rabbis love this mitzvah, excuse me, of peacemaking. I mean, we know that from the sheer number of times that prayers for peace appear in our liturgy, and rabbinic literature is full of odes to peace. And the rabbis wax completely rhapsodic about the process of peacemaking. Just one version of this. I'm not going to go through all of these texts word by word, although they're well worth studying. I love them all. Chizkiah said in a beautiful little section of the Talmud, little known section of the Talmud called Perek HaShalom, the chapter of peace, says, Gadol hu HaShalom, peace is great, peace is the greatest, because most commandments in the Torah are case law. They say, if you're in a given circumstance, if you should see such and such, if you should come upon such and such happens, and so on, if the commandment is available to you, then you're obliged to do it. That's how most of Torah is case law, arguably. So most mitzvot are situation. This is what he's saying. I guess this is debatable, but most mitzvot are situation specific. But with peace, he writes, what is written, Bakesh shalom v'rodfehu, seek peace and pursue it. No time, no circumstance, no particular situation. And he continues, seek it. So why does it say Bakesh shalom v'rodfehu? Seek peace and pursue it. Those would seem to be, you could have just said seek peace. You could have, could have just said pursue peace. Why those two verbs? Baksheo bimkomcha, seek it in your place. V'rodfehu b'makom acher. When there is a conflict right very close to you, seek peace. But when there's a need for peacemakers far away, don't say, let somebody else handle it. But we as peacemakers, those of us who are heirs to the tradition and therefore are subject to the mitzvah of Bakei Shalom v'rodfehu, actually have to make ourselves go even far distances. You could physically or metaphorically, relationally, to pursue the cause of peace. One of the rabbis who most loved the subject of peace was Hillel, who we know was a kind and relational and empathic person. And I think it was he who was responsible for creating this rabbinic idea that Aharon was a master of peacemaking. I won't go into the many, many texts, which some of you know about, how Aharon would pursue peace, and he went to one side, he went to the other side, and he did kind of what mediators do, but using his own rabbinic pastoral authority to persuade people to come back together. But Hillel, who really for sure was that kind of person, imagined Hillel as a practitioner of peacemaking, as a seeker and pursuer of peace. Hillel says, Havei Talmido shel Aharon, be students of Aharon. Aharon was Ohev Shalom v'Rodev Shalom, a lover of peace and a pursuer of peace, and so on. It goes on. One of the things I think is important about this text is, again, it's not situation specific. It's described as a way of life. Peacemaking is a way of life. It applies to every conversation we have. It applies to every email we send. It certainly applies to every meeting in which we participate. And some rabbinic texts would also say that it applies to the ways in which we work with the thoughts that arise in our minds and our hearts as well. Practice Ridifat Shalom, the pursuit of peace, as a way of life. Even when it's hard. This is a complicated piece of text. It generally takes me several sessions to unpack it. But for some of you, this will be familiar, for others not. We have a mitzvah of what's called tochacha, usually, unfortunately, translated as rebuke, that appears in one of the most famous passages of Torah, but the tochacha part, because it's complicated and difficult, often kind of gets skipped. Remember Leviticus 19:18, v'ahavta l'recha kamocha, love your neighbor or your fellow Israelite, as some rabbis interpret it. I prefer love your neighbor, love your fellow human as yourself, ani Hashem. But just before that, it says, don't hate your brother, your sister, your kinsfolk in your heart. Hocheach tochiach et amitecha. Reprove them, but incur no guilt on their account. I'm going to skip this next long text, but there's a whole corpus of rabbinic literature that says, first of all, what is this rebuke, and why is it connected to the commandment not to hate our kinsfolk? And how is it connected also to what's at the end of the passage, love your neighbor as yourself? And that is because the rabbis see, contrary to the word rebuke, which has a very harsh, maybe hocheach tochiach also has a harsh sound to it, but the rabbis maybe reinterpret it to say, it is a mitzvah to approach someone who has done you wrong. It's a hard thing to do. Maybe that's why it needs to be a mitzvah. It's a mitzvah to approach them, not because we like lording it over other people when they've done us wrong. Lehefech, absolutely not. But because when we tell someone in the right way, in a kind way, in a humble way, that acknowledges that I am also a person who has harmed others. Maybe I've even harmed you. But on this particular occasion, I need to talk to you about the fact that something that you said or did hurt me. When done in that relational, empathic, humble, mutual spirit, is a way of inviting tshuva. The other person, if approached that way, may say, thank you so much for telling me. I appreciate your approaching me. I'm sorry. And I've learned something. I'm going to try not to do that again. And in the same spirit, and with this I'll close, an amazing Hasidic text, early Hasidic text, which I really love, from Toldot, from Yaakov Yosef of Polonia, just a disciple of the Baal Shem Tov, plays on the verse Shiviti Hashem Lenegdi Tamid. That, again, very beloved verse. It's on many of our walls on a Mizrach document or decoration that we have. Mine is from the Mizrach that I have is from Yad LaKashish from many years ago. So I place God before me always takes the word linegdi as spatial, right? I place God before me. I want to walk around my life as if God is right in front of me. I wear contact lenses, so it's as if the name of God, if a name of God were on my contact lenses, everything that I saw in the world walking around my life, I would see through the lens of God or through the eyes of God. But of course, negdi or neged also means opposition. So the Hasidic master very ingeniously says, he's heard probably from the Baal Shem Tov, that this verse is about conflict. This verse is about when I encounter opposition. When I find someone who's against me, lenegdi, from the language of negdiut, opposition, the person should return to oneself. When I get mad at somebody, I should immediately turn the finger around and go inside and realize that in that anger, in that resentment, in that fury, in that outrage, that state of outrage, even I may be right that the person has done something wrong, but in what happens to me in that state of anger and opposition, the opposition in me, oppositionality in me, that I've gone far from the Holy One. I've gone in that state of anger, I've gone way far from God. It seems to me, he says, according to what I've received from my teachers and friends, that one should behave compassionately with every person. Sound so simple, right? It's very, very simple. Easier said than done. Even when one sees something ugly, and the word is michoar, I love it that it's such a, down to earth word. When I see something ugly in another person, I should give heart to the fact that there too, in that person, and even in that ugliness, dwells the name of the Blessed One. For there is Leitatar panui mine, very important mantra in Hasidic literature. There is no place empty of God. It's not that God is over here and then there are places over there where there is no God. The divine, all of creation is infused with the divine. So that person who's done that terrible thing to me, as from my perspective, or that person who has that horrible instinct inside of them, God lives there too. Therefore, it's actually for my own good if when I notice the ugliness in the other person, and I'm reminded that God is in that ugliness, and then I'm reminded that that ugliness, that flaw, that hurtful tendency that probably comes from my own woundedness or the other person's own woundedness, when I realize actually I'm capable of something, maybe I've never said exactly that person said, but that tendency to be hurtful lives in me as well. And in that whole loop, that whole series of thoughts and reflections and introspections, I have a chance to do tshuva. And if I share with someone else that they've hurt me in that spirit, we both have a chance to do tshuva. And that, I suggest, is a practice of, it's a practice of everyday peacemaking. So I invite you, please, if you take anything together from these few minutes that I've shared some Torah with you, is that peacemaking is for everyone, not just for people who work in diplomacy, not just for people who hold political office, not just for scholars of conflict resolution, not just for professional mediators, but for each and every one of us, every day, every time we're in contact with other people. And to do so, to engage in life in that way, is to make the world a better place. So, Ken Yiratzon, may it be so. Thank you.
Thank you, Amy. Yasher kochech. Before we go on to our second speaker, let me just remind you, if you have any questions, and certainly Rabbi Eilberg has given us much to think about. If you have any questions that you might like to ask her, enter them in the chat now while they are fresh in your mind. They're not going to be discussed now. We're going to do the Q&A at the end. Put your questions in there now if you have any questions. We're now going to go on to our second speaker for today, who is Linda Avitan. And Linda was one of our panelists on last year's program. She is a certified couples and family therapist and an active leader in the Masorti movement in Israel, serving as the longtime chairwoman of the Adat Shalom Emmanuel congregation in Rehovot. She has served on the board of Women of the Wall for the past 10 years, a group known to many of us for their active struggle for the rights of women to be able to daven freely at the Kotel in Jerusalem. Today, Linda will be speaking to us about the history and development of the Women of the Wall. Linda, this program. She is a certified couples and family therapist and an active leader in the Masorti movement in Israel, serving as the longtime chairwoman of the Adat Shalom Emmanuel congregation in Rehovot. She has served on the board of Women of the Wall for the past 10 years, a group known to many of us for their active struggle for the rights of women to be able to daven freely at the Kotel in Jerusalem. Today, Linda will be speaking to us about the history and development of the Women of the Wall. Linda?
Hey, so thank you again for having me here, and I'm gonna share my screen share PowerPoint that I made. And when I thought about in the context of conversations among sisters or among people, Women of the Wall has been known. Can you see me on the PowerPoint?
Yes.
Okay, because I only see the PowerPoint. I found it a little challenging because of all the strife and all of the trouble we have at Women of the Wall. But I'm going to try and stick to my assignment. And here's a little bit of history of Women of the Wall, even though I'm sure that most of you know a lot of it. And I'm sure that most of you or many of you have either been with us in person or on live, Facebook Live. So Women of the Wall was founded in 1988 when a group of women at a conference went to the wall on Rosh Chodesh Kislev, and they said, wouldn't it be nice to bring a Torah scroll and have a service? Innocently, but naively, I guess. In retrospect, it was not well received. It was very violently received. And over the years, women felt like, okay, this is the thing we really, we need to establish our rights to have our service, our women's service in the women's section at the Kotel. So we're very proud that our group is as opposed to what's like popularly known, Reform. No, we are multi-denominational, Orthodox, conservative, Reform, secular, and our prayer book, our Siddur, was written with all the denominations kind of in agreement of what can be in there and how we should do our service. And our goal is the right to hold a women's service with our voices, Talit Tefillin for those who choose, and to read from the Torah, which in our synagogues is really there's no, of course we do that, but at the wall it's so very different. And there's so many court cases. It's been in and out of the Supreme Court and many courts. And if you're interested, you can look on our website and really dig into it. But the one thing I want to emphasize that was really like a turning point in 2013 was the right to wear talit and tefillin at the wall, which the district court, Moshe Sobel, said these women have their own custom. That was one of the laws that were tried to be against us. We have our own custom, and we are not hurting anybody's feelings by wearing a talit, laying tefillin, and praying in our way. Unfortunately, the Torah part of it was not part of that. Psak Din was not part of that decision because it wasn't relevant at the time in that case that women had been arrested for talit and tefillin. By the way, that's about when I joined a couple years before that, when women started being arrested for wearing a talit. I'm like, okay, enough is enough. It's my time to get in there. I've always wanted to, and this is my time. And subsequently, I was asked to be on the board. So here's some of our activities besides the Rosh Chodesh service, which we have every month on Aleph of the month, unless it's Shabbat or Rosh Hashanah. Occasionally, we have a weekday minyan, either because Rosh Chodesh had been on Shabbat or because we want to, test case, bring in a Torah, or we want to celebrate something, or, we do have an occasional weekday minyan. The last one we had ended not well. Women were arrested for smuggling a Torah scroll in, and there was violence between the ushers and the women, some of the women. We have a shofar blowing workshop. I'll share pictures soon. We have Sichot prayers. We have a booth for blessing the 4 species. I think that's how you say lulav, etrog, hadas, and arava. It's actually one of my favorite activities, because if we're talking about conversations, we stand in Jerusalem on Rehov Yafo, kind of near where Chabad stands. And we approach women and say, would you like to do the blessing for, Arbat Minim? And some women ignore us, and some women say, no, I did already. And some women say, oh, are you allowed? And some women say, oh, yeah, I would like to. I haven't done it, or I haven't done it in a long time. And it's really a great time for conversations, interesting conversations, and, down to earth conversations. We also have candle lighting on Hanukkah. We have Megillat Esther. Both of those things used to be really like challenging. They used to take our Chanukiot out of our bags and say, no, you're not allowed to bring those in. And you'll see the picture, we had someone from the States make this like Lego type of Chanukiah that you put all the pieces in a bag and you put them together with a number by number. Megillat Esther has been the least controversial, and that's a fun time. We have participated in the Masorti Movement's Song and Prayer Circle, which has been going on every day for the last 2 years in Hostage Squares, besides Shishi Shabbat. And we have a tefillin booth around worldwide rap. So let's see, what's in this going? Okay, so here's some pictures. This is our shofar blowing workshop. This from this past year. This is Rachel Cohen Yeshurun, one of our board members, blowing a shofar. This is really interesting. I'm pretty sure this is from Sichot because of the pages, even though it looks like it's daytime. Women sometimes in these Hanukkah Purim Sichot sessions, like kind of approach us with interest and with curiosity, and they join our singing, and it's really special. Whereas on Rosh Chodesh, it's really hard to come near us, and there's so much protest around us that it's kind of hands off. But these special times invite women, we invite them, they invite themselves to really join us and be part, and it's really beautiful. This is the Arbat Minim. This is, I think, from this year. I approached this woman. I wonder if she's with us. I approached her, and she was so excited. We talked for a really long time about, she's from the States, and we just had a great conversation. It was very meaningful for both of us. And she was so appreciative that someone asked her, that someone noticed her and said, would you like to? And she really did want to. This is Hanukkah. I'm sorry, I put a lot of pictures of myself, but that's what's in my role. This is, can you see my marker? This is the Chanukiah that I was talking about, that it's like a Lego put together thing. And down on the floor, you can see that we have lit also our personal Chanukiot. And also a lot of women in the women's section join us happily, because the official candle lighting is in the men's section with men only, as we know. And it's nice to have an opportunity for women to also take part. This is Purim. After the Megillah reading, we all kind of gather around with the Megillah open and take our picture. This is us putting our Sidurim up high when we sing Ozi V'Zimrat Yam. If you've been with us, you know it. And it's just a custom that we have of like raise your Sidur and raise your voice, and it's really beautiful. There's Yochi, our CEO. This is Tommy, our fearless Shachari leader, and this is Anat Hoffman, whom I'm sure you all know. She's the founder and longtime chairwoman of Women of the Wall, and this is a couple other board members, Ronit and Rachel. Well, this is myself and my daughter. I couldn't resist putting this in this special morning. This is the world that tefillin. Our member Dina I love the four species, and she loves this one, helping women like tefillin, and it's really special. And we also have lots of conversations, and men also object, and we try and talk to them. Well, they don't all object, but many do. So here, I'd like to talk about some successes that we've enjoyed. We started having a choir a couple of years ago, and it's a really beautiful addition because it really raises our voice literally and figuratively in a beautiful song. And sing for us like a cantor would, but they just really just make it so much more in tune and special and beautiful. There's a really interesting thing that's happened over the years, the last few years. There's some religious girls, not the ones that come to protest against us, the ones that come with their seminar schools, and they sit next to the mechitza, and their boy, male colleagues or partners, they lead the services, but the girls have started singing. And they didn't used to do that because you're not supposed to sing if you're a girl or a woman. You're supposed to be quiet. So it's really special, and we're pretty sure that's thanks to our example. There's a lot of interest. People ask for lectures if it's pre-army programs or high schools or tourists or not tourists, both in Israel and all over the world, and people are really interested. And I feel like the more we talk to people, personally, I can vouch for this. The more I talk to people and we talk to people, they're like, "Oh, that's what it's about. Oh, that sounds okay." Like all of my Orthodox friends think it's totally fine. And also when I'm on the street asking people if they want to lay tefillin or, livarech, they say, "Have you heard of Women of the Wall?" And then we can talk about it. And I feel like it's becoming more mainstream, and people are getting that part of our mission is to have pluralistic Judaism be legitimate in Israel. We also had a success at the court, not about our prayers per se, but the ushers would be, and the security personnel would be checking our bags to see if, God forbid, we brought in a Torah, either in our bags, or they make us take our coats off because it might be under our coat, or it might be under our shirt, or it might be who knows where. So the court ruled that security personnel has to check for dangerous, really dangerous objects, not a Sefer Torah, like a knife or, God forbid, something security-wise dangerous. So we thought that was a good success, but they were on top of what they could do about it. And so the Kotel ushers, actually the third bullet point here, the Kotel ushers join in the security, and they look on to see if there's a Sefer Torah on us or in our bags or on our persons. We all know how the religious establishment is just growing in polarization in Israel. It's a really big worry. The loudspeakers, if we're lucky, they come on at 7:30 and not 7 when we start. And that's also against the Kotel rules itself. They're only supposed to have a loudspeaker for services if they're over 1,000 people, which there aren't. But they want to drown us out, and they're very successful at it. And the speakers point to our section, and it's very loud and very annoying. And of course, the violence is very troubling. So here are some more pictures. This is a picture of what it looks like sometimes try to get into the wall, into the Kotel in the morning. They check each bag one at a time. They don't use the machine that you put your bags through, because it's always somehow not working on Rosh Chodesh. Isn't that something? This is not a new picture, but it describes our never-ending goal and mission to somehow unfortunately, to smuggle a Torah. And this was one of our successes, as you can see. This is close-up of reading from the Torah when we did have one. It's me, actually. This is Edin, the chief usher, having an argument, or he's actually looks very upset at Yochi's listening to him, but this is kind of like, we're in his way, we're in his face, and he doesn't like when we come. This is another one of our long-time opposers. She actually started writing us emails, and I personally blocked her, but she's very, I don't know, she's very bullying. This is one of the younger girls. This is like, look at the look in her eyes. Isn't that terrible? This is what they teach them, to hate us. This is the day that 39 Cedar Wing were ripped up. Nobody was ever prosecuted for that. One person was arrested and released, even though the whole scene was on camera and they could have arrested and prosecuted somebody or somebody's. So recently, Gilad Kariv had a few meetings at the Knesset in which he really tried to make order in what's going on at the wall, and he gave no break to the police who said, "Oh, there was only one case, one complaint last year," and he was like, "Really, seriously? If you see something like against the law, like people shoving or screaming or being in somebody's face and harassing, you are not going to arrest them. You leave that to the ushers." And he really shamed them into getting their act together. And last month, we couldn't believe our ears and our eyes that the police women actually made at least two people leave our space. And one said, "If you don't leave on your own, you're going to leave here in handcuffs." So hopefully, at least that part will be getting better. How can we accommodate ourselves, our needs, and others? Well, I wrote and I think we have no agenda to change anybody, but we don't want to give up our needs as the only way to be considerate of theirs. And I'd like to share this as my final slide. This is a bat mitzvah girl, right? And I'm so impressed by the girls who come to have their bat mitzvah, because it's not easy to come into a crowd that's yelling at you. There was one girl who said, "I just imagined that they were all cheering for me, and then it didn't make me afraid." I thought that was amazing. So I'm over time, so you can just kind of take a look at it, and I won't read it aloud, but basically she's saying all we want to do is pray, and we're here standing, singing, chanting, reading. All we want to do is pray. So if that's what the younger generation feels, I'm optimistic that they'll take this forward and be our next generation leaders. So that's it.
Thank you, Linda, for that very comprehensive overview of the Women of the Wall. As I said, many of us are familiar with your group because the once a month at midnight here, but it's in the middle of the night, but once a month we do carry live coverage of the Rosh Chodesh meetings at the Kotel. So again, many of you may have some thoughts or questions. Please enter them in the chat, and we'll take a look at those later on. Now we're going to switch gears altogether. And for this next speaker, I first of all want to express my gratitude to our Israel liaison, Diane Friedgut, because she was the one who put me in touch with Tamar when I was trying to plan the program over the summertime. We have a kind of a sub theme to all of our sessions this year, having to do with those who serve in the IDF. In September, we had a lone soldier give a presentation, and in December, we will be hearing from Harriet Levin, who will be telling the story of her son, Michael. And then we will also be hearing about the organization supporting the Lone Soldiers Foundation. So this is something a little bit different, but we've all been hearing some of these really heartwarming stories of soldiers who come home from serving in the war, or hostages who have been released, Baruch Hashem, and then they come home and they reunite with their boyfriend or girlfriend from before, and many of them are getting engaged and getting married, and we rejoice with them. Unfortunately, there are just as many, perhaps even more, stories that don't have that fairy tale ending. And so our third speaker today is Tamar Heimowitz-Richter, a passionate Zionist and senior Israeli attorney who has two sons currently serving in the IDF and one who recently finished his service. and she is going to be telling us about her organization, GFIDF, the Partners of Unmarried Fallen Soldiers of the IDF. Tamar?
Okay, so thank you very much. First of all, thank you for having me. I didn't know about these meetings. They're beautiful. So a few words about myself, and then I'll tell you about our organization. So as Rabbi Sela said, my name is Tamar. I'm married to Rafi, who came on Aliyah from Switzerland. We have 5 children. Currently, 3 of them are in the army. My oldest, who went into Gaza, was one of the first tank drivers who went into Gaza, is in Miluim, in reserves. I have another son who's in a classified unit in intelligence, and my daughter, actually not another son, my daughter, went into the army 2 months ago and is training to be a combat soldier. As you can hear from my accent, my parents are American. I was born in Israel. I was the first Tzabarit that was born in Israel. And my parents came after the 6-Day War, and they're very, very good friends with Diane. So that's how the connection is to this group. So the story of GFIDF, I'll share a short presentation. Okay, can you see it?
Yes.
Okay, so the story of GFIDF, which in Hebrew is named Hotir Acharav Chavera, starts in 1997. 1997 were the days of the security zone in Lebanon. If you recall, after the first Lebanon war, Israel wanted to protect the northern border, and they decided to have posts within the area that belonged to Lebanon and protect from that area the Israeli borders. In one of those posts, Mutzav Dlaat, was this wonderful human being. His name was Avi Buk. Avi was also a son of American parents who came on Aliyah. He was one of 6 siblings. Avi was a very unique human being. He loved the people of Israel, and he loved the country. And he also loved my sister, Michal. Michal, this is a picture of Michal and Avi a few months before he was killed. We have a lot of family in the States, and my mother wanted to show them who Michal was going to marry. So she took this picture. They were so young and shy. So Michal and Avi knew each other from first grade. They went out seriously for about 3 years, and they decided to get married. Avi was killed on Sunday morning, and the Shabbat before, we sat and saw wedding and looked at wedding invitations. Then on Sunday he was killed. He was killed while there was a mortar bombing on the base, and Avi ran through his soldiers to see that they were okay, and a mortar fell right next to him. Until today, so many years later, we're talking about 1997, there's still an argument if Avi died on the spot or if he was taken into the helicopter still alive and died on the way to the hospital. But there's one thing that all of us are 100% sure of, and that is when he was taking his last breaths, his thoughts were of Michal. Michal, during the Shiva, she kind of held it together. When so many people came, every night she went to the cemetery. My brother and I went with her, and we sat from afar, and she was on the grave for hours and hours. She broke down when a letter came from him, a letter that he sent before he was killed, a letter she knew was coming because he told her before he was killed that he sent her a letter. And it was heart-wrenching because it was a love letter saying how he's looking forward to their lives together and what a wonderful life they're going to have. And he was dead. After the Shiva kind of moved to my parents' house. And there was a certain point that Michal sat on the couch and she whispered, she couldn't even talk. She whispered, "Save me, I can't save myself." We tried to tell her, go see a therapist to talk about what you're going through. And she agreed to go one time, and she came back and she said, she's very nice, but she doesn't understand what I'm going through. And at the time, my aunt was healing from cancer. And she said that the thing that most helped her was a support group. So we decided we were going to form a support group for Michal. At the time when Avi was killed, I was at work, and Michal called me to the office to say that I have to come home because Avi was killed. And the lawyer I worked for at the time, he took me home and he saw what was going on. So when he heard we're going to do the support group, he said he's going to finance it. He said this client is paying this client is paying this, and we financed the first support group. And then my mother Phyllis and I were faced with a decision. You know, Michal was taken care of. She went to the support group every week for a year. She would come back every Friday after 2 hours of being in a session there. She would come back, roll into bed, and come out the next morning. But she went. And slowly we knew that she was on the right path to trying to come to grips with what happened. But more and more soldiers were falling, and there were more and more and more partners. And we felt that this is such a wrongdoing, that the ministry, oh, I forgot to tell you that during the Shiva, we approached the bereavement officer. In Israel, every family that loses a son or a daughter has a bereavement officer assigned to them. And the bereavement officer assigned to Avi's family was a really nice woman. And we said to her, look at Michal, she needs help. And you have to do something. And she said, I know, I can see, but I'm sorry, I can't do anything because the Army and the Ministry of Defense are only entitled to help immediate family, which means the parents, the siblings, a wife, and children. And Michal's neither of them, so she can't be helped. And my mother and I felt that this was such a wrongdoing. We felt that the Ministry of Defense and the IDF and the state of Israel owes a moral obligation to the soldier that fell to take care of his girlfriend, because she was the center of his universe before he died, just like Michal was Avi's center of his universe. And it's inconceivable that during the life of the soldier, before he's killed, it's a very clear place what the place of the girlfriend is. But after he dies, she becomes nothing. So, you know, in Israel, everything works with connections. So at the time, my mother taught English to very high-ranking officers in the army. And one of them set us up with a meeting with the head of manpower, Rosh Aka, in the army. And we went to that meeting and explained. And he said, I understand. I see the need. We can't take care of them directly, but if you form a nonprofit, we'll finance you. And that's indeed what happened. 3 days after that meeting, GFIDF was formed, was established. And for 25 years, up until the war, up until October 7th, we took care of approximately 500 bereaved partners, men and women, sometimes in a relationship of men and men, women and women. We dealt with partners of any soldier that fell, regardless of the way he fell. If the government decided that he was a Halal Tzahal, an IDF soldier that fell, then we took care of their partner. The years before the war was approximately 10, 12 new bereaved partners a year. And then the war came. Nothing prepared anyone, I think, for October. It's not moving. Nothing prepared anyone for October 7th. But I can say that we put in the years before the war, we knew something was coming. Of course, not that. But in Israel, on average, there's about every 7 years, there's some kind of little war or some kind of big operation. So we knew something was coming. And we put in a lot of infrastructure to enable us to deal with a big amount of partners. We thought that it would be like after the Second Lebanon War or Tzuk Eitan, that there were 40 bereaved partners. But nothing prepared us to the insane number of, on October 8th, we already had over 100. And as of today, there are 376 new bereaved partners, which is a crazy, crazy number. If in 25 years, we dealt with 500. So now in 2 years, with 376. What we do with these partners is we wrap them and deal and treat them from the moment they get the message that the soldier has fallen and throughout their lives. Because this is not something, this is not a grief that you heal from. You learn to live with it. You learn to live alongside of it. You don't heal from it. I think that the best example for this is that right before the war, we opened a support group for bereaved partners who are now enlisting who now their children are enlisting into the army, which you can imagine how much that, what feelings that brings up. We have groups for new relationships. There's a lot of guilt involved when children are born, and we surround these girls and help them with support groups, with individual therapy, help that they need with the army. We now open the scholarship fund, and we do a lot of activity. We're recognized by the Ministry of Defense. Up until the war, they financed 90% of our activity, and deliberately we did not want to raise donations because we wanted to tell these bereaved partners, the government sees you. They know that you had a special place in the soldier's life, and they know that you have a special place in the soldier's death, and they take care of you. But of course, this also changed at the war because of the immense numbers. Today, the Ministry of Defense upped our budget significantly, but as of today, they finance 65% of our activity, and the rest we raise donations. I actually, on Friday, just came back from a delegation to the US where we spoke in different places about this very unique form of bereavement. It's very important to me to say that the purpose and the goal of GFIDF is to enable these partners with time to live a happy and fulfilling life alongside their grief rather than under its shadow. And I'll finish with telling you about my sister. This is Michal at her wedding. 4.5 years after Avi was killed, Michal married Igal. Igal, the meaning of his name is he who shall bring salvation. And my mother says it's not a chance that that's his name. Igal knew Avi. He studied with Avi in a yeshiva before the army. He knew of Michal. He didn't know Michal herself. And in their engagement party, he said that a bigger power than him made him call her. And I truly believe it was Avi. Avi is a big part of their lives. On their chuppah, Michal wrote out this sentence, this pasuk from Sefer Devarim, and I'll read it to you in English. It says, "Not only with you do I make this covenant and this oath, but with him that stands here with us this day before the Lord our God, and also with him that is not here with us this day," which is unbelievable. There were 600 people at their wedding, and they got married under this. Avi and Igal and Michal have 5 children. 2 of them are named after Avi, Avigail and Eviatar. He's a very big part of their lives. This is in their living room where the candlesticks are. And I can tell you, I told you that my oldest son, when he went into Gaza, Itai was born a few years after Avi was killed. He didn't know Avi. But Avi is a big part of his life too. And when he went into Gaza, he put in his dog tag 3 pictures. He put a picture of our nuclear family, a picture of his girlfriend, and a picture of Avi, because that's the way it is. The bereaved, the soldier that fell remains an integral part of the bereaved partner's life for always, forever. But I think that our story, the story of GFIDF, is a story of immense pain and grief, but it's also a story of hope and resilience, because these partners learn with the right help, they learn how to come to grips with what happened. Many of them don't want to live after this happens, but they do, and they form happy lives. The soldier is part of their lives. We have girlfriends that the parents of the dead soldier are like grandparents to her new children. One of them even walked the girlfriend down the aisle, and that's the way it is in most of the cases. So thank you. Thank you for hearing our story.
Thank you, Tamar, for that moving account of your organization and of your sister. And may she and her new husband have many, many, many blessings.
Amen.
Perhaps you want to put the name of your organization in the chat so that if anyone does want to make donations, they can do that.
I will.
Um,
Thank you.
We are going to go now to our final speaker for today, who is Rabbi Dorothy Richmond. She serves as the rabbi of Makor Or Jewish Meditation Center, and she is the Rabbi Emerita of Congregation Beth Shalom in San Francisco. She teaches on the faculty of the Institute for Jewish Spirituality's Clergy Leadership Program and for Or Halev. And today, she will be leading us in a blessing practice. Rabbi Richmond?
Thank you, Rabbi Sella, and thank you so much to all of the previous speakers. I'm so moved and inspired through our journey through Torah and prayer at the Kotel, and I'm still in the story of Avi and Michal, the beautiful story, and Yigal. Thank you for all of your presentations. My goal in the time that I have with you is a little different. It's to engage a practice, maybe just to integrate some of all of this information that we've been so lucky to have been able to listen to today. And so, in our theme of shalom, I'm really leaning on the meaning of shalom as wholeness, as including the all, shlemut, completeness, that leads to a state of peace. An idea that we can bring everything in that's there and not have to deny or overlook or try to push out any part of our experience, just to accept. Hebrew has quite a few contronyms. I learned this term and I really love it. A contronym is a word that means itself and its opposite. And so shalom, in addition to meaning, of course, wholeness and peace, also means both hello and goodbye, right? And so it shows us that it's a word that is capacious. It's an idea that can include, all parts of the spectrum of an experience. And so that's what I'm going to hopefully guide us through today, being open to all the parts of our experience as a way of experiencing and offering shalom. And so I'm going to begin just by inviting you, however you're joining us here today, if you're seated in a chair, on a sofa, if you're standing, if you're in a car, wherever you are, just noticing for a moment how your body feels. Just putting attention into what's going on in your body and noticing maybe the energy. And if it's helpful to close your eyes, that's great. If you'd rather keep your eyes open, you might just want to pick a spot. You don't have to look at the screen. Just pick a spot in front of you and just kind of have a soft gaze, just so that you can feel more what's true in your body without the extra information coming in through your eyes. You might want to notice, if you're seated, the point of contact of your tush to the chair or your feet on the ground. And just notice the support you're getting, the physical support you're getting right now. just from whatever you're sitting on, and how it feels, what that point of contact feels like. And if you like, I just invite you to release just a little bit of your tension into the seat or into the floor. And just notice if that's possible, what that feels like. Just notice if you can feel that support, if the support's still there, even when you release into it. What does it feel like? And if your eyes were closed, or if you can manage with eyes open, I'd like to invite you just to imagine in your mind's eye a Kiddush cup. Maybe it's your Kiddush cup. Maybe the Kiddush cup that came to your mind's eye is one that someone else you know or loved had, or maybe it's just a Kiddush cup and you don't know where it came from. Whatever it looks like, just imagine that Kiddush cup being poured to the top with rich red wine or grape juice until it's overflowing. Kosi Revaya, until it is an overflowing cup. And you don't have to imagine it anymore, but that image is really what we're trying to do during this practice. Just fill up our own internal cup of blessing and then let it spill out to others. And so for some, the first step of a blessing practice is the hardest because it's the one in which we fill our cups. It's the one in which we give blessing to ourselves. So I'd like to invite you, just knowing that it's a practice and that just doing it is doing it perfectly, just to notice what happens when you invite yourself to bless yourself with shalom. May I be blessed with shalom. May I be blessed with wholeness. May I be blessed with peace. May I be blessed with shalom. May I be blessed with wholeness. May I be blessed with peace. May I be blessed with shalom. May I be blessed with wholeness. May I be blessed with peace. Just noticing how it feels to bless oneself and letting anything that is there be there, any feelings of well-being, of relaxation, of hope, and of yearning, any feelings of resistance or discomfort or awkwardness, just letting them be part of the experience without having to change or adjust. May I be blessed with shalom. May I be blessed with wholeness. May I be blessed with peace. And then we'll take a moment just to open the circle and think of maybe someone we love and offer them these blessings. May you be blessed with shalom. May you be blessed with wholeness. May you be blessed with peace. May you be blessed with shalom. May you be blessed with wholeness. May you be blessed with peace. Maybe we'll take a moment just to open up to this community that's gathered today. May you be blessed with shalom. May you be blessed with wholeness. May you be blessed with peace. May you be blessed with shalom. May you be blessed with wholeness. May you be blessed with peace. And we'll widen the aperture to our countries. May you be blessed with shalom. May you be blessed with wholeness. May you be blessed with peace. May you be blessed with shalom. May you be blessed with wholeness. May you be blessed with peace. And at our final stop, we'll widen the aperture to all life, to the earth itself and all of her creatures. May you be blessed with shalom. May you be blessed with wholeness. May you be blessed with peace. May you be blessed with shalom. May you be blessed with wholeness. May you be blessed with peace. When you're ready, if you've closed your eyes, feel free to open them. Ken Yehi Ratzon. May it be so. Thank you.
Thank you, Rabbi Richmond, for that moving experience. And I think listening to you speak, I personally was reminded of how these days, so often, more so than probably any other time in my life that I can think of, I just feel so much stress and tension because of of everything that we hear that's going on in our world. And I think that was so very, very, very important. So so thank you for that. Okay, so now we have the question and answer part of the program. So if anybody does have any last minute questions, feel free to enter them into the chat right now. So let me begin by asking Linda. I had the experience of going to be with the Women of the Wall once when I was in Israel in 2016. And I think that it may have been the one time that you pointed out that there was actually a full-size Sefer Torah there that morning. So my question is, like, how is it possible to daven under the circumstances that you do and have any kind of kavanah? I found it so difficult that morning to really feel any sense of that.
That's a great question. And I think one of the things that helps us is our sisterhood and our closeness and our feeling that we're there for each other and we protect each other and we make sure that none of us will engage in arguments or in back and forth with the girls and women who try to provoke us, who will then make a complaint with the police, and then they will actually call us in for questioning. So we make sure to protect one another. And I try and think of like the larger mission. What I think that my children, for example, they look up to me for this, and they think like I'm doing something important, and that gives me also kind of a motivation and inspiration. And like I said, I look at these young girls. I'm like, okay, they're looking up to us. We need to be there for them. We need to show them what needs to happen in our world, in our country, in our spiritual, in our religion, I guess you say in English, but kind of zooming out, it helps. It's very challenging, and getting up at like 4:45 in the morning it's not my strong suit, but every time I go, I say, okay, I'm this is really important. This is worth it.
Yes, for sure. And as I said before, many of us have have actually joined in, at least virtually, by watching once a month as your services are broadcast for the members of Women's League.
Right, which by the way is also an inspiration because so many women like look up to us and look at us and look to follow us, and we know that it means so much to so many people. Thank you.
Thank you. Tamar, again, thank you for the moving story of your sister. And I asked you at the end of your presentation to put the information in the chat. But if you could answer just a little bit of what, if anything, people can do to help support your organization, I think that would be very helpful.
Okay, so I think the support in our organization is mainly two things. One is to tell the story. I think I told you I just came back from a delegation that we were in New York and in Washington, and the story of the bereaved partners, it's not known. In Israel, I don't think there's anyone that doesn't know what Hotir Acharav is. This organization, in this war, there were more bereaved partners than widows because the soldiers are so young. So I think the social recognition of these girlfriends and boyfriends, knowing that they have a specific and very unique place in the Israeli bereaved family is very important to their rehabilitation. So I think telling our story, following us on social media, and passing on this very unique form of grief is essential for us. That's one thing. The other thing is donations. If you have any connections to organizations that you think that could be interested in financing these things, women organizations, because most of the girlfriends, it's indeed girlfriends. Unfortunately, the needs are very big, and they're not going to get less in the years to come. I'm sure you know now that there's the aftershock of the war is going to be and is already happening, suicides of soldiers, and which is a whole, if there's a girlfriend in the picture, there's so much involved there, and we deal with that too. So I think it's time now for Israel to rebuild itself, to heal, for the people of Israel in general, and the bereaved partners too. And they're going to need help doing this. So any help or connections would be amazing.
Thank you. And there was one question in the chat. For people like your sister who do eventually marry, do you continue to support these people after marriage?
Yes, we support them throughout their lives. The first 2 years, the first year or 2 years are more intensive. We consider ourselves, and that's how we explain it to them too, that we're a family. And just like in a family, sometimes you're closer and sometimes you pull back a little. So that's okay. We're there in any junction of their lives that they feel the need. I'll tell you that this war, besides the 376 new bereaved partners, we also were approached by close to 60 longtime bereaved partners, women who lost their loved ones years before the GFIDF was established, and they are still dealing with it. Many of them are grandmothers. So this is not something that goes away. We're there for them for life. It's less intensive. It's less, they don't go to therapy for the next 40 years, but in places that they need and that they feel the need, we're there.
Thank you. Thank you. Okay, so just to finish up this Q&A session, I'd like, Karen, if we can bring both of our rabbis back up on the screen, Rabbi Eilberg and Rabbi Richman. You both gave us so much to think about in totally different ways. But Amy, I was so struck with the image that you left us with at the end of putting God's image right in front of us. And I was reminded of how often in the Torah we read the phrase "Be'enei Adonai," "Be'enei Elohim," in the eyes of God, but now we are keeping God in front of our eyes, which is totally different from those who wear a kippah or some form of head covering, to be reminded of the fact that God is always above us. But above us is far different from right in front of us. So I was very touched by the final image you left us with, and Dorothy, the exercise that you led us through, I think was very moving, and I think it was important for all of us. So if let me just ask each of you if you have something final that you would like to leave us with today.
I could just underline Dorothy's wonderful meditation. That's a meditation practice that I've been practicing every day for many years before I daven. But more on seeing through God's eyes. At the end of the famous verse, Leviticus 19:18, "V'ahavta re'acha kamocha," love your neighbor as yourself, it then says, "Ani Hashem, Ani Adonai." Now, the truth is there are many verses that end with Ani Adonai, but of course the rabbis say, so why does it say Ani Adonai at the end of this? And one answer is that when we look at people through the kind of lens of our small self, our stories, our hurts, our histories, our early child wounds, all of that, we can just get furious with someone else and forget that they're a human being just like us. But if we see other people as God would see them, that's anthropomorphic, but take that as poetry if that doesn't work for you. See other people through the eyes of God, of the creator, of the ultimate, of the source of compassion, how different things would look and how different we would live our lives, at least some of the time. Sometimes we screw up, but some of the time, maybe more of the time than otherwise.
Dorothy?
Well, thank you, Amy. Lovely to see you down the road in California. I think the only thing I'll say is I find this practice useful, and I find prayer in general useful. There's been some really beautiful actual physical ways that people are creating peace for others that are truly inspiring. But often in this reality, I find myself at a loss to really understand how are we going to get from where we are in this moment to where my heart and soul long for us to be. And I'm really grateful for the practices of prayer where you can just put out that wish and that hope and that blessing without needing to know the steps to get there. I think it's a real spiritual power and tool. And it's been one that's really been useful and helpful to me.
Thank you. Thank you both. So this is the end of the program. There are some more questions in the chat, but I think this is an appropriate place to end the conversation. I want to thank all of our presenters today, and I want to thank all those who helped me put this program together. Rabbi Roland Fields has been particularly helpful in helping to plan the program, and Diane Friedgott, as I said, helped put me in touch with Tamar and her wonderful presentation today. But aside from that, Diane has been working tirelessly to advertise our program in Israel and to bring the program to many of our sisters in Israel, which of course is the goal of the program, to have Sichot ben Achayot, conversations between those of us who are in Israel and those of us who are outside of Israel. So thank you, Diane, for all of your work on this program. A special thanks to Karen Bolena, our tech person, who is very, very capable, and I would never be able to get through any of these programs without her assistance. I'm so glad that she was able to be here with us today. So I invite you all to join us for our third session this year, which will take place on Sunday, December 7th, at the same time as the program did today, which is 12 o'clock Eastern Time, 9 o'clock a.m. on the West Coast, and 7 o'clock p.m. in Israel. And the topic for that final session is making peace in our world. We have three of our speakers. We already know exactly who they will be. One is Rabbi Miriam Berkowitz, will be speaking to us from Israel, and Harriet Levin will be speaking to us about her son Michael, Zichrono Livracha, for whom the Lone Soldier Foundation was formed, and then Stacy Stuffelbeam, who is the CEO of the Lone Soldier Foundation. And we will also be hearing from one of the released hostages. We don't yet know which person will be speaking to us. We will know better when it gets closer to the date. And once we know the name, we will let you all know who that is. But those will be our 4 speakers in December. And so I look forward to seeing you all back here again on December 7th. And thank you all for coming to our program today. And may the day come soon when we see peace in our world.
Amen.
Thank you, Rabbi.
Thank you.
Wonderful.
Thank you.